The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello friends, thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week, we'll review Austin's 1-1 draw at home against FC Dallas. We'll preview the upcoming road match in Montreal. And then we're going to do a fun little prompt from our buddy Derek Ensign, and also talk about the upcoming close of the transfer window. My name's Landon Cottam, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremiah Bentley, and I think we should start the show off with Landon apologizing to one English midfielder who doesn't listen to this show and probably has no idea who we are for besmirching his name in favor of another English midfielder. And the guy that does deserve all the blame actually owned like 4 DH Gate version kits from that guy.
Yeah, I think I was talking. I think this was in a conversation about big Euro players coming to MLS and this being like how that affected the retirement league allegations. And I think I said players like, maybe I said Andrea Pirlo and Frank Lampard.
Which is accurate. Yeah,
Andrea Pirlo was
Lampard.
bad.
Yeah.
Lampard was all right. I think I was thinking Gerrard and said Lampard. So apologies to the Frank Lampard family. But Steven Gerrard, you actually did suck.
He was terrible in his time in LA. I don't even know what he was doing. He wasn't here very long. I think maybe he thought he was going to come to the US, like back up and become a celebrity of some sort, except nobody else in the world is David Beckham, right?
He's a little less charismatic than David Beckham.
For sure. And then one thing I also wanted to follow up on, this is a question from Ryan Clark in Los Verdes Slack. So last week I talked about Michael Boxhall and Jack McGlynn being 2 of my very least favorite players in Major League Soccer. He asked who else you would put on your Mount Rushmore of Major League Soccer hate. One, which made me go down the rabbit hole of like what Mount Rushmore was supposed to be. Right, and they basically like it was
yeah,
gonna be
that's
every
a good
president.
Question. Because it was built so long ago. Is it even the Mount Rushmore of Mount Rushmores? Like what is Mount Rushmore even?
Yeah, and it was they had like a way bigger idea, and the guy ran out of money and time and just stopped after 4 presidents. Like I don't even think those were like the best 4, but assuming the most idealistic version of Mount Rushmore, I think my other 2. So one, and I don't.
And this is MLS characters,
MLS.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, MLS specific. Yeah, so starting McGlynn, Boxall. My third is Jesus Ferreira.
Okay, yeah.
Dallas Jesus Ferreira. I can't hate him as much. None of he's not there because he doesn't affect my life as much.
Still hate him some.
Yeah, we can hate him some. And then my one person it's not going to be that I feel like a lot of people hate is Ricky Puig. But I don't think he's done enough to Austin for me to hate him exactly, or enough like evil deeds in the league for me to hate him in that kind of way.
Yeah, I will mock him and dislike him, but I think I'm on the same page. I don't know that I full on hate him necessarily.
So then my 4th is going to be Sergio Ramos, because he's like my most hated soccer player in the whole world, and he has played a game at Q2 Stadium. So I feel like he qualifies.
He played in the MLS All-Star game.
He did play in the MLS All-Star game. That's right, at Q2 Stadium. So yeah, Sergio Ramos, Jesus Ferreira, Michael Boxall, Jack McGlynn are my 4.
I didn't do as much research as you on this. I think I would maybe put Caleb Porter on there. Just his whole being just really rubs me the wrong way. Jesus Ferreira is a good shout. There's got to be another player. This is maybe recency bias. Preston Judd really irked me the last time we played San Jose. He gave big pay to play, do you know who my dad is vibes the whole game. When I was going out watching academy games a lot, they would play some MLS academies, and then in those games there were fewer parents and stuff there, but the ones that were there were often quiet and not really saying much, and that tends to be how Austin FC academy parents are as well. And then they would play these like private academies where it's like the pay to play model where nobody's there on scholarship. Really, it's like you can only play there if you can afford to, or if you're extremely good, maybe get a scholarship. Those parents and those kids were the absolute worst. And Preston Judd seems like the guy who played at one of those academies.
And San Jose was one, like I was trying to think about this with a rivalry, who I hated the most from San Jose, but I feel like it's an ever-changing cast of characters. But
Yeah.
so I think it's fair for it to be Preston Judd now.
I'm gonna add some other candidates later during the FC Dallas recap, but we can save those until then.
All right, let's do that. Let's move on to talk about the story of the week. This is, 1-1 draw at home. I think we were all disappointed. I would say for me, like the one big thing was like the eyeball test. Like in the stadium on that night when I watched it, I felt like we were the better team. I felt like even when Austin gave up the goal, we were going to score a couple more. I was like, I don't know where I was I do know where I was standing. I could only see the possession numbers and none of the other stats on the big board. So maybe that had something to do with it. But then I went back and watched it again the next day. I'm like, oh, did we just bring the horseshoe of sadness back? And especially in the first half, like it was a very slow, contemplative pace of play that did not serve to make Austin look like the better team on the night, which they should be more on the front foot at home against a club that's below them in the table.
I think both of those things can be true because a lot of the horseshoeiness came due to the way Dallas was playing, and they did a good job playing negative soccer at times and just putting as many people as they could in their defensive third. But you're right, like Austin did well up until a certain point on the field and then didn't have the juice to get chances in that area. And there's a few examples as we get into the meat of the game here that I'll use to kind of show where it failed and at what point we stopped being good on the field.
Speaking of good on the field, and I feel like this is becoming a more and more common thing, like Owen Wolff, again, like dude is amazing.
Yeah, it was, it's a real shame this game didn't end in a victory for Owen Wolff specifically, because he is a boy among men, but the way he played, he was a man among men. Like he grows in confidence, and the crazy stuff that he tries and just now knows that since he's done it a few times, that he knows he can get away with and like actually pull off. And there's one moment of magic in the first half, and then when we get to that goal, I mean, just the athleticism and the confidence and the assuredness in his mind, like that ball goes up in the air. Nobody was ever going to win that ball but Owen Wolff. And that's what I saw, but that's what Owen thought too. He's like, nobody's stopping me here.
Yeah, that was beautiful. So he ends up getting his team of the week for the fourth time this season with the MLS team of the week. And then one thing that the PR website put out is he becomes I think with 3 goals and 7 assists on the season, the youngest player to reach 10 goal contributions for Austin FC. And given how goal deficient this club has been, like that can't be a very long list. I mean, 10 contributions seems like a really low bar, but there can't be more than a half a dozen players. I mean, probably more seasons, but players individually that have done that, right?
Yeah, I always kind of laugh at when I really like that Austin FC comms account, because they put out some stuff. I'm like, oh, I didn't actually catch that, or I didn't notice that. But sometimes when they put these like club record ones out, I'm like, okay, but like who else was going to do it?
This team's in the 5th season. Oh, exactly. Yeah, they're in the 5th season. How many other competent 20-year-old players has Austin FC had? I mean, 0, right?
And we've only had the one good season period. And so pretty much any record that exists happened during that season, unless your name is Brad Stuver.
Yeah. And then I think one thing we can't get away from, and this is a little bit of a holdover from last week, was the refs. And I developed like amnesia about this Guillermo Buru handball that wasn't called. And so the whole second half, I was screaming with Jackson about how guys were getting murdered in the box, which was not quite true. Like, and nothing was getting called. And I felt like we were cheated. And I went back and watched it again. I'm like, never mind. That was, you talk about goals changing games. If that call goes another way, it could quite likely be a very different outcome on the night.
Yeah, I do have some complaints about specifically one of the non-calls in the box. But I do think the non-call on the Biru handball was the biggest missed call of the night. And so I think you're right. We probably came out ahead here. How did they not call that one? Like, what's the argument there?
I don't know. And I guess this is one of the things that we'll hear about. Maybe I'm sure somebody's going to ask about it on the, the pro. We'll hear about it on the review. But yeah, I have no idea how they don't go back and look at that because it seemed really obvious. At least to take a look.
His arm is behind him, and he doesn't really know anything about it. It probably didn't affect what was happening in the play very much, which, like, if that's the way they called it, I honestly don't have any problem with thinking about handballs that way. But I also am not sure that's the way they're supposed to call them.
Right.
Like, I don't think that's the way they've been instructed to do it. And so, I mean, I'll take it, but I don't fully understand it. And this is maybe another unpopular take, but I really thought the ref did a really good job for most of the game. He was letting them play aggressively. And what's the one thing I always ask for out of refereeing crews, Jeremiah?
Is for them to call both sides evenly.
And just consistency. Call it the same all the way through.
Yep.
If it's a foul this time in the game, it's a foul in another time in the game. And I feel like for the most part, he let them play. He let them play rough, but he was letting both teams do it, and both teams took advantage of it. But on the one that I really have a problem with is the one on Uzuni, where I can't remember who plays him in. Maybe Obrion. It gets on a break and plays him into the box. He touches it back behind him. His momentum kind of carries him into, is his name Urogide, the big center back? And then there's just a slight pull on Uzuni to prevent him from going and winning the ball, which he was going to do. Like, there was nobody near it. Uzuni was going to track back and win that ball in the box. And there's a slight pull on the shoulders. And I understand you've been calling the game, like, letting them play aggressively. And that was not an aggressive foul. It was a very light one. But it was like an intentional move to prevent him from gaining an advantage. That's a foul. It has to be a foul. I know it feels incongruous, but like, that's the way it works. Like that, some things are fouls that are soft. That's the way it is. And even more annoying, how many penalties have we had called in the last month or two that were softer than 4 fouls that got let go in this game?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That one was tough. The other ones were all, borderline. It was it's one of those things too. Like, if we weren't also frustrated by everything else on the night, would those calls have been as annoying? Like, probably not. Right.
Yeah. And I think the ref did a fine job. And after watching some of those back, I think some of them were good no calls. The Obrion one, where someone kind of bundles into his back, he goes down a little too easy there. There's one where somebody pulls, I think it's Bukhari's arm in the box. And this is what Dessler got called for against Paintsel. Like, that was worse than what Dessler got called for in Paintsel in that game. And so that's a little annoying too, but that's more on the other refs being a little too
not
soft,
this one.
right?
Yeah. I agree with that.
All right. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back with the FC Dallas match, and then we'll move on later and talk about the upcoming close of the transfer window and whether or not Austin's going to do anything in it. No one is around. Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FEF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FEF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment that you can check out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to FEF.law to find out what makes FEF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's FEF.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been the home of fee-free banking since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balance. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more and to register for free parking at the Amplify Esperanza branch on game day, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer. All right, we are back. We're going to dig into this FC Dallas draw a little bit deeper. So this draw leaves Austin FC currently sitting in 8th place in the West, dropping one spot. Good news is that Austin hasn't lost in 6 straight matches with 4 draws and 2 wins. But the bad news here is that it's a second consecutive draw at home versus a club behind Austin in the table and also an in-state rivalry. And that's the bad news here. That also goes back to some other games that we also said, like, hey, there's a bad team coming to Q2. We should beat them. And then we didn't.
Right. And that will be the theme of the preview up ahead, as there's a bad team going on the road that Austin should beat. And we will hopefully not make any assumptions about how that result is going to come out. So we knew coming in, Austin could win Copa Tejas. Could Austin ruin Dallas's chances? The answer here is yes, but not in the way you wanted it to be. But the draw still sealed it for Houston. After the poor finish with the beginning lineup changes, we don't get this. And then we get this, I don't remember the exact wording from it, but we get this thing from Pro, which is the Referees Association, about how like the VAR last week against Houston should have gone to review, which changes the outcome of that game. But like, why do we do this? It just pisses everybody off about what happened before.
I appreciate the accountability, but I'm very surprised they said anything, because it didn't. There's not like a yellow card or a red card that's being erased because of this. They essentially just said, "Hey guys, we did a bad job," which I'm kind of glad they did, but also I'm shocked that they did it. And they essentially said what we said, right? Like, it didn't get called in the field. They didn't say like this wasn't a penalty. What they said was, this call, because he didn't call it in the moment, did not warrant a review. But what they did instead was requested a review, and then he went and stood at the monitor for 5 minutes. Like, that is exactly what you don't want VAR to do, and it's exactly what they did.
Yeah, you talked about it last week. It's the opposite of clear and obvious.
Yeah, 5 minutes is not clear and obvious. Let's get into the lineup here. So it was the exact same lineup as the last 2 weeks, right?
Correct. Yeah, same lineup.
Yeah, which, again, I'm fine with. I know I was harping for a long time about wanting Robert Taylor to get a start. That was when they were starting Obrian and Gallagher over him. If you're starting Owen Wolff over him, fine, I get it. Don't worry, don't mind that so much. I will say, though, Owen had to work really hard in this game for having to track back, because Dallas is playing with a back 5, but their wing backs were pushing up very high in the attack. So Owen was shuttling back and forth with that wing back the whole night. And then all the work he put in on offense, he was then tracking back and doing that on defense, and then would run up and be an outlet on offense again after making a big run. So they ended up having to pull him early. Maybe if you're playing him in a more central area, he's not running so much, and then he doesn't have to come out early, and you can maybe play him the whole game and say maybe have him on the field in a moment where you need a goal late in the game.
Just throwing out a hypothetical there.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I understand, like, it's not an easy solution just because of who our best players are and how you get them all in the field at the same time. So I get it, but it is a problem to have Owen working so hard that he can't finish a game.
So you just talked about that, but like, is there something that Dallas did that creates the need for him to do that? Or is that just the way Austin set up?
Yeah, whenever they would push those wing backs high, or even just get into that final third, Austin, like Nico generally does, ask his wingers to track back and defend pretty deeply. And so, yeah, that was just causing him to do bombing runs both ways pretty much the whole night. And it's hard to do that for a whole game. It's one thing if you're just kind of hanging out over on the wing and waiting for balls to come your way, but Owen would then tuck inside, play combinations, dribble guys, and do all the stuff that we see him do in this game. That takes it out of you as well. So it's just kind of an accumulation of all that throughout the game is going to take it out of you. But if he's not having to track back so deep from such a high position all the time, maybe he has a little bit left in the tank for the end.
And that's maybe the hottest night of the year, right? If not, it's like top 2. That was a brutal heat, I feel like, in that match on Saturday night.
Yeah, and it was still very humid as well.
Or humidity, yeah, I think is really what made it feel so bad.
So Did we get through the whole lineup here? I don't remember. No, we just said it's the same one, but
it's the same. Yeah.
Stuver, Biro, Heinzike, Swatok, Dessler, Sanchez, Pereira, Wolff, Bukhari, Uzuni, Rubio. So Rubio doing that kind of 9.5, 10 position. Austin has some exciting moments early and it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Like there's some good moments and some bad moments throughout, but they look like the better team for the most part. First big moment of action comes from this trick set piece where Austin gets a free kick just outside the top of the box. Biru, Rubio, and Uzuni are all set up over it. Biru runs over it, backheels it back to the right for Uzuni to get an angle around the wall, but I don't know what happened. It doesn't quite work. I think maybe Biru didn't hit it far enough, or something happened where Uzuni was off guard or had to take a step back to get it. But Dallas didn't really react, and so he's still able to get a shot off, and it hits it just wide. But you'd have to think, like, if Biru gets it into his path the first time, maybe his angle's a little better, and maybe the shot's a little better.
Yeah, that one was like in the southwest corner, which is where our seat is. So we had a really up close view on that. And there was just something that made Uzuni hesitate. I think you're right. I don't think that he got the ball where Uzuni was expecting it.
Yeah. And then the Biru handball happens after that. Thankfully, nothing comes from it. And then another exciting part is this Owen Wolff moment of magic where, I mean, the fact that this didn't end up as a goal is so heartbreaking. It's still such a cool moment. But if it had ended in a goal, they would be playing this on repeat during highlight reels for the next 2 decades. Like, it's that cool of a sequence. So we lose the ball in our attacking corner. Dallas is trying to get out of pressure, and then Owen takes the ball off of Logan Farrington, pushes forward, and then does one of the coolest moves I've ever seen to Meg Christian Kappas. The ball gets away from him a little bit. He goes to ground, wins the ball, turns Bernie Kamungo upside down with the tackle, and then pops up with the ball still at his feet, puts it across to a dangerous area, and he's got Rubio and Uzuni kind of in that area. It goes between them, and then a Dallas player gets a foot to it, and so it doesn't quite come off. But man, it was so cool. Did you slow down and watch that Meg that he did and see what he actually did in that moment?
I didn't see it the second time around. I was thinking live in the moment. It reminded me of his play on the wing a few matches ago where he went to the ground, kept the ball going somehow. But this was he was going to the ground under contact, right? It was so skillful.
That one was cool, but I'm talking about what happened just before that.
Oh no, no.
So he takes the ball off Farrington and drives forward. Kappas steps towards him. He rolls his right foot over the ball, that little sole roll to just kind of adjust the angle of the ball. But instead of driving forward with his left foot, he then kind of Rabona pushes it back forward with his left foot. What's the one where you kick it behind your own foot?
That's a Rabona.
Okay. Yeah. He rolls it over with his right foot and then with his left foot pushes it back the other way and Megs Kappas with that touch. And that's the one that gets away, and then he has to tackle Kamungo to win the ball back. But just the thought to do it is one thing, the ability to do it, and then the physical ability to go and win that next one and then just pop up like nothing happened. It is insane. It was so cool. And again, if that's a goal, the stadium melts. Q2 doesn't exist anymore. And then it falls to Biru. It falls to Ilie, and he squares it to Biru, and Biru hits a knuckleball from outside of the box that their keeper, Kolodi, will be thanking the karate gods that it knuckled within his wingspan, and he was able to punch it over. But he really smashed that ball too. I mentioned that there's some exciting moments, but also a lot of mistakes that really affected momentum. Just some misplaced passes, some losing the ball in kind of needless situations. And then we play up the right a lot because Bukhari's over there. And they were just a little bit too indecisive on that right side during the first half. So Dallas was playing a back five. So they had their wing back, who was Kamungo on that side, was marking Bukhari really tightly. But then they had 3 center backs in the middle. And so Abubakar was able to cheat really wide without giving up space in the middle. And so it was difficult for Bukhari to go 1v1 there, but then also made it kind of difficult for Dessler to do overlaps just because there wasn't a ton of room there. And so he was a little hesitant and wasn't sure if he should go or not. That's one of my biggest complaints about this game is that there. Because, like, this is not a surprise. Dallas has done this in games. They've played with a similar defensive shape. I wish that, like, the coaching staff would have had them prepared for, like, this is how we're going to approach this. But instead, it was like the players didn't know that was going to happen and weren't sure how to attack it at that point. And it took them a while. They finally figured it out, but you'd hope that they would have known that was coming and could have figured it out in 10 minutes instead of 40 minutes.
Well, didn't Nico in the midweek talk about that possibility? And just, I guess they didn't do what they needed to do to prepare them to play against Dallas?
Maybe Dallas did something slightly different that threw them off. But what finally happened is we would start bringing more numbers over. So Danny would float over there, Rubio would float over there, and then we had more options to kind of play those combinations there. But it didn't happen every time. And oftentimes it would just be Dessler and Bukhari not really sure what to do next.
Well, before we move off of him, like that, this is the tallest that Bubakar's hair's been, right? Since we played against him.
It feels like it has grown.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It did seem taller. Maybe that's not right, but it did seem very, very tall.
Well, I think we have to talk about this Shaq Moore goal now, which is one of those. I feel like it's the second Jack McGlynn goal last week where it just like happened, and I wasn't quite sure what happened. And the video board, I think for the second week in a row, was kind of terrible. Like I didn't see that goal again until I got home and like watched it on the highlights. So I don't know exactly what happened in the moment until I went back the next day and like checked it out again.
Yeah, so there's a kind of a messy play over on the left side of our defensive box. There's a 50-50, gets popped way up in the air, then falls to Pitar Musa, their striker, at the top of the box. He's able to just kind of lift his leg up and tap it in behind. Shaq Moore, their right wing back, runs onto it and shoots. Stuver has it covered. Sounds like a familiar story, right? But once again, Brendan Heinzike gets just like tries to open his hips and put his trailing leg onto it to keep it off the face of goal, but instead gets the slightest toe to it and just puts it right over Stuver's hand where he was just there waiting to stop it and can't because of the deflection again. I mean, I know this is a dumb idea and I know they shouldn't actually do this, but maybe let's not deflect balls in front of goal anymore. If it's a shot on goal, just trust Brad's going to get it. Don't worry about it.
Brad has a long history of saves.
He's had much worse defenders than you in front of him.
Yeah.
It is a lucky goal, but is there anybody here that you think could have done better? I have a candidate here.
Well, I feel like Shaq Moore had a fair amount of space to get that shot off.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of the luck there, though, of like my fingers pointing at the spot before there. I think that like even the whole scrum on the left-hand side, maybe we could have done better to get it out from there. But when that ball falls to Pitar Musa, it's Biru on his back, and he doesn't really put any pressure on him. Like, you don't want to just charge through his back because he's standing in the box. But if Svatak is in that position, that's turning into a wrestling match, right? Like, he's not going to just let Musa stand there. But instead, Musa is able to just stand his ground unimpeded and redirect that ball in behind. Whereas if you can make contact, like engage and push on him, if he falls down, you're not going to get called for a foul there because it's kind of 50-50 at that point. But Biru just doesn't really put any pressure on him at all, and he's able to get that ball through. And that's why Moore is open. And then even when Moore gets the ball, Austin has it covered fairly decently. There's 3 defenders in front of him. It's at a tough angle. Stuver's in a good position. So yeah, you don't want anybody to get the ball in your box anytime, but I feel like Biru could have done better to prevent that ball from getting into the box anyway. And that was Dallas's second shot of the game. Both of them were by Shaq Moore. And I think he had their third one in the second half as well. So that goes to your point of...
Are we required?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we're required to call him U.S. national team player Shaq Moore, because I feel like every article I read made sure and pointed that out.
I'm not going to call him that because I don't think he's getting another call-up anytime soon. And I don't fully understand why he kept getting call-ups for so long either.
No matter what, yeah.
So we go into halftime. Again, it was kind of more of the same for Austin. It looked like the better team, but couldn't quite string it together. Come out from half, Dallas makes one change. They take off Musa and put on Anderson Julio. And then we finally get the equalizer in the 51st minute. This is that Owen Wolff header that we discussed earlier. So there's a foul in Austin's half. I never actually saw this on the replay because they didn't show the replay on TV, like how the ball actually ends up in our half. But I think Ilie takes a quick free kick long to Bukhari. He gets onto the end of it, but there's no one else there with him yet. So he drops it back to Dessler and he puts in a first time cross because by the time the ball dropped back to him, there were people arriving in the box. So, and including Owen Wolff, who was running towards that back post. Dessler puts in a cross. It's a nice ball. Collodi was good commanding the box in this game. And so there are quite a few pretty good balls that Collodi just read well and came out really aggressively and was able to get to. This one was not one of those. Like, it was a good enough ball and in the right spot where he didn't really have a chance to do that. But like I said in the first segment, like once that ball was in the air, it was Owens. He was just kind of jogging in a straight line to arrive in the right time, and the ball got played, and then his body language changed, his angle changed a little bit, and it was like, this is over. And Moore doesn't even really see him coming and gets posterized kind of like whoever it was in that last game. And there's some contact here. He bumps into him, but Owen raises his arm and just kind of braces himself against the player as he jumps. He didn't push or extend his arms. He didn't push down on the player to jump. So I think this is a good no call, especially the way this game was called. And I think it also takes a slight flick off of Shaq Moore's head, but touches his head first. But then Owen gets the second touch and still gets a lot of power on it. So I think that's even harder to do, like when the momentum has maybe been taken off the ball a little bit, to power it in that way. And then it's always... like a goal is always more satisfying when it hits the crossbar and pings down like that. I always love when that happens.
Right. Well, and it's like the body control from Owen on this one. This is not a tall guy who rises up above his opponent and makes it. Like, it was very...
It's just a
it's
supreme
a play
athlete.
Only he can make. Yeah, he's just a freak, right? It's a little play, only play he can make, and like just the way that he saw the ball in the air and positioned himself for it. Like, nobody else can do that on this team.
Yeah, I know Steph and Mike have been calling for a Wolf howl. I was waiting for it to happen. We didn't get it, though. So we get some subs. Oh, wait, there was one big chance before we get to the subs. There's one big chance in the 62nd minute. Owen picks off a pass, and Austin get upfield with Dallas a little bit out of possession because of where they lost the ball. Ilie plays Dessler forward. Bukhari makes a run in behind centrally and pulls the back line with him, which opens up space for a cutback. And so Dessler plays that cutback into space for Uzuni. Lots of space in the box there. And instead of taking a first-time shot, or maybe even, like, he may have even had time to take a touch and then take a shot, he dummies it and lets it run on for Danny, who was behind him. But the pass didn't quite have enough mustard on it to make it to Danny, and Dallas cuts it out. It's a selfless play. Like, I commend him for his selflessness and impressive awareness to know that Danny was there. But if I have my choice of players to take a shot in the box, it's Uzuni. Like, you want him to take those shots in that moment, especially when he has that much space. If there's a player on his shoulder and he doesn't think he can get a shot, sure, use the dummy. Maybe that's a higher percentage. There's nobody near him. Take a touch, or even just hit it first time and put it in. Like, you want that guy to take charge in that moment, and he didn't do it.
And I feel like that's out of context from how he's played somewhat recently, because he has taken charge in those moments before, which is why we've seen this run of goals.
Yeah, it's just overcomplicated it, I think. I think maybe he thought he was setting up an easier one, but really he was not. He was setting up a harder shot for a worse player.
Well, you kind of touched on the subs, and I'm just going to go through them all collectively. It's 64. We get Sabovich for Rubio. 77, we get Gallagher and O'Brien for Dessler and Wolff. 86, we get Fodre and Kolmanich for Putterheader and Bieru. And I saw complaints about some people coming in too early and some people coming in too late. I think the real problem was like the subs are all kind of bad. Like, nobody really played very well on the night from among that entire group, which is why I don't think the timing is the issue. I think it's how they performed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's how they performed, and then also like what the game needed, and none of those guys were going to give you that, because there's a moment late on in the game where CJ Fodre's on the break, has a few passing options open running ahead of him. They're not easy passes, but they're there. There's some needle holes to thread if he wants to try to do it. And he doesn't choose any of them and instead takes a shot, and it just kind of goes right at the keeper, not very hard, and he saves it pretty easily. If it's in a game where we're struggling to break down a really low block, where we're keeping possession fine, like we are getting into the final third, pinning Dallas back, and just not able to be sharp enough or clever enough or skillful enough to get into the box and get that final chance. If you bring on CJ Fodre and John Gallagher and Hot Air O'Brien, that's not going to get better compared to the guys who are in front of them, right? Like, those guys are good at some things. It is not the thing that we were just talking about. And so I think that goes back to like a focal point number 10 would have been really useful in this game. And we didn't have that. We don't have that option to bring off the bench. We don't have it in the starting 11 either.
And when we get into the third segment, we'll learn there's probably not one coming at any point between now and the end of the season.
It's also brings a question. One guy who is kind of creative and maybe could have helped break down some like a lower block defense didn't play, which is Robert Taylor. He didn't touch the field. What do we think's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be more than just what's on the surface of this. And I think we've talked about this more than once. But yeah, this game, to your point about the style of the subs, and especially having O'Brien, Galley, and Fodre, who all basically add the like blunt instrument run fast skill without anything else. Like the fact that those three are the three that come on and not Taylor, like it's almost inexplicable.
If we're winning this game 2-1 and he makes these subs, then I'm like, okay, maybe that's good. Just like, blunt, like you said, blunt force instruments, like let's use those to protect a lead. But if we need to break down a low block defense, Taylor might have been helpful.
Yeah.
But that makes me believe that there is something else. Like there's an attitude problem, something going on behind the scenes that is more than his ability on the field, and maybe more to do with what he's doing outside of games or not doing outside of games.
Yeah, that makes total sense. What we end up with instead on the last 10 minutes is this 2023 style lumping in crosses that to like with no promise from every direction off and off John Kolmanich's foot. That never really looked like they were going to lead to anything because there was nobody there to like be on the end of them and finish anything.
Yeah, I thought Kolmanich put in some decent balls, but Dallas did a pretty good job of protecting those moments. That team is not good at a lot of things, but that is one thing that they've got some big, mean dudes in the box who can jump up and smash things with their head, and they did that several times. But yeah, he was kind of the only one that was like, maybe what he does will lead to something good, and maybe having someone in like CJ in combination with Kolmanich putting balls in would lead to something good, but that didn't happen. Anything else to talk about in this game? There's not really nothing else really happened. There wasn't much else of promise. So let's get into what we liked, what we didn't like, and what we learned here, Jeremiah. What do you have?
I will start with I had the smash burger on the concourse level in the southwest corner. Delightful. 2 patties, cheese, jalapeno. I don't even remember the name of the shop, but
Southwest
I don't remember what
corner.
was there before. Kind of between where the flags are, where the DJ booth is, and the Lexus Club.
Okay, good to know. I liked that Mirto Uzuni got into a little shouting match with Lawless Abubakar, and they kind of went chest to chest. And it's one of those moments where it's like one guy is about to headbutt somebody and get a red card. And I thought it was going to be Uzuni, but instead he reaches up and just pulls on Abubakar's little chin hair beard. And he just tugs his chin hair and then walks away and then goes up to him again and does it again. So I think he was trying to get Abubakar to lose his cool and come after him, which I thought was very funny to watch. Another thing I liked was later in the game, I don't remember exactly when it was, they shoot, it's nowhere near target, it goes out, and Brad grabs the ball like he's going to take a quick free kick. And in this moment, like Austin players are not running for a quick, like a long ball or anything like that. But for some reason, Anderson Julio stands in front of the ball and like isn't going to let Brad take the kick. And so Brad just launches a ball at him and hits him with it. And Julio gets a yellow card. It's like stupid from Julio, but also really smart from Brad.
Yeah.
To be like, I wasn't going to play it long anyway, but if this idiot's going to stand here, I'm going to hit him with the ball.
That was funny because I read this note and I thought you meant he smashed into Julio Cascante. And I was like, I don't remember this. No. You hit him in the nuts or what?
Yeah. What did we not like here?
I'll start with, you touched on this, but Bukhari and Dessler, for guys that have been pretty well connected and dangerous on many nights, just did not look good at all on their side of the field on this night.
Yeah, and again, like some of it's on them. Just they need to react and make decisions. But I think the coaching staff needs to take some blame here as well for not going into this game with a clear plan of how they're going to attack such a crowded back line there.
Yeah, and then my second one, which we've touched on a little bit too, because there's no number 10. Uzuni is still not getting enough service to be the threat that he probably is, other than this one chance that he had that he ended up laying off. Yeah,
and again, I don't think it's his fault. I think Uzuni is doing okay for the most part. We criticized his decision-making on that last one, but the rest of the team has to find ways to get him the ball. He can't do that all on his own. He can't get it and create shots for himself at the same time. So partly personnel, but this is the personnel we have, so we got to figure out a way to get him the ball. Another thing I didn't like was FC Dallas's cranial fashion choices. I'll open up the category here a little bit to haircuts and headwear. So Christian Kappas and one of the subs, I don't know, one of the like a blonde guy who was a sub, just have absolutely terrible haircuts. And I know, like, Christian Kappas, I know has money. He played in Europe for a while. He's probably not super rich, but he's got enough to get a good haircut.
To get a decent barber, yeah.
And then the guy on the sub as well was kind of a mess. And then Eric Quill, their coach, always wears this gigantic red hat and pulls it way down onto his ears. And he looks so stupid. And then probably a lot of people are going to think I'm going to say Lawless Abubakar. I don't mind that. That's a big swing. He's making a choice. I don't really like it, but I kind of respect the attempt here. I think he has a look. He's made it taller, we think, so I don't mind his at all. But Michael Collodi, their goalkeeper, with his stupid, like, did he just see Karate Kid for the first time? It was like, I want to be that guy. I hated that so much. And it's like an elastic headband. It's not even tied on. Those little ties are just dangling from the back. They serve no purpose other than to make him look like an idiot. And he chose to wear that.
Yeah, that was a terrible look. That's one thing I noticed for sure early on was what he was doing. I haven't watched enough FC Dallas to know if that's like his everyday look. Or
I don't think it is.
Just something he decided to break out on the night.
I don't mind people being uncool because, like, I don't think I'm that cool. But where I have the upper hand here is I know that I'm not that cool. What really irks me is people who are very uncool and think that they're cool. And Eric Quill and this goalkeeper fall into this category. And I think probably some of the reason why Jack McGlynn gets under my skin as well.
I think that may be right. And I think we should go ahead and set up, because we've been talking to Mike and Steph about the, I guess, FC Dallas entire coaching staff fan choices. Clothing choices for the night, maybe like a swoon tower topic. So I think you'd expect to check that out on Friday and get a more in-depth and more qualified opinion on everybody than you're going to get from us today.
Oh, I know Mike's going to go in on Colodi for sure.
Awesome.
Last thing we didn't like is that Danny Pereira is going to be out on yellow card accumulation for the next match. You said you looked into the stats here, Jeremiah. He was very close to getting off on one, right?
Yeah. So he got 2. Then he went, he got 3. Then he went, I believe it was 9 matches without 1, which means he got 1 taken off back down to 2. He almost got another 1 taken off. And now he's had like 3 in the last 6 matches. So from 3 to 2 to 5. But if he just got like 1 more good one in the middle there, we'd still be on 4, and we would be under the threat of yellow card accumulation, but wouldn't be on it. Like, and that yellow card, like, what do you think about that? I know it shouldn't matter.
I think it was deserved.
5th.
It was deserved. He went in for a big challenge on Shaq Moore on the line there and did not touch the ball and took Moore out. So I think it was a deserved yellow there. We'll talk about how Austin might replace him as we get to our Montreal preview, but let's move on to what we learned from this match, Jeremiah.
Yeah, I think number 1, just like every season other than 2022, this is going to be a slog to the finish. So Austin is, again, it's big group of teams, between like, I think it's like 6 and 11, and they all have different numbers of game played right now, so it's hard to tell, but this is a group of teams that are never going to be out of it and never going to feel secure. And it's probably going to come down to the last 2 weeks with San Jose and LAFC before we even really know anything about this team. And I think it's the most disappointing part of the results from the last 2 weeks is Austin had the chance to put itself both in a safer position and take points away from the team that aren't necessarily super threatening. Like Dallas and Houston are still probably both going to finish behind Austin, but they couldn't put them away.
Right. Yeah, they had a very clear opportunity to do both of those things and didn't do it. So they're going to have to do it now. But now in this part of the season, everybody's fighting. Everybody's motivated, where you can steal points in this section of the season where crunch time hasn't really hit for these teams. It's going to be on for all of these teams at this point. So they're going to have to be ready to fight.
Yes, there's no margin of error. I think Brad Stuver maybe talked about this in the post game. It's like they've kind of done away with their margin of error by not converting these chances that they have now. The other thing that we continue to know is, well, this team is not scoring very many goals, and they're second at the bottom in goals scored. They're still not allowing very many. So I don't remember what the total number was, but by a fair margin, Austin FC matches have the fewest goals of any MLS clubs.
And that's for like both sides, you're saying? Yeah,
they're
that
both,
makes sense.
Yeah, they're both doing a terrible job at scoring and a really good job at preventing. So unlike Montreal, like their total number of goals scored in their matches is really, really low and much less than anybody else's.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this one before we move on?
No, let's go ahead and move on.
All right. Actually, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with some Austin FC news, including our thoughts or predictions on the upcoming close of the transfer window. Then we'll also do our Montreal preview, and then we're going to pick our all-time Austin FC starting 11 based on a prompt from our buddy Derek. So we'll do that one as well. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The Sage Wilson team is made up of Austin experts who are client-focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience. And I happened to hang out with Eric Wilson.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, before the match on Saturday night. And I would say, not only this experience line, we just read it, but like he has a lot of experience in Austin too. This is not a guy that just moved in from California and decided to start selling like real estate. Like he's been here a while. He's a part of the community. He knows the community. If you're looking at somebody that like really gets Austin, like talk to the Sage Wilson team.
And that matters too, right? Like when we bought our house, we kind of had an idea of what area we wanted to be in, but our realtor, who was one of our neighbors and kind of knew what we were looking for, showed us a house that was not in the areas we were looking at, but she's like, go look at this house. Like, I promise you, just do it for me. Go look at it. And we went and looked at it. And it's the one we ended up buying because it was great. And she knew They're like, okay, it's not exactly in the area, but for what you're looking to have, this neighborhood, this house is right for you. Go look at it. And she was right, and we bought it. So having someone who knows what's going on, knows the different parts of town is super helpful. And Eric does that.
Yeah, so really great to get to talk to him for a little bit. So our friends at Sage Wilson Realty are going to give away 2 tickets to an upcoming match. You can fill out the form in the show notes for your chance to win.
If you or someone you know or need Sage Real Estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com.
And our premier sponsor, again, is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space, from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only supports this podcast and Austin FC because we have a better sense of fashion, we have better haircuts, and we're just overall much cooler than any of the other cities. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information. All right, we are back. Before we get to our Montreal preview, Jeremiah, the MLS transfer window closes this Thursday. We do not have any player rumors, either incoming or outgoing at this point. When we talked about Jader Obrian, there was some rumors about him. All of those rumors were to Colombia, and I didn't realize this, but Colombia's transfer window is closed. So we could still move him, but it would be to somewhere else, most likely within MLS, I would guess, if Colombia is not an option. But his salary is quite high for what his output has been the last, this year especially. So I'm not sure how interested someone would be in that, but how are we feeling? At this point, do we feel like this is it? Is this what we're going to have?
I mean, how are we feeling is a different question. Those are 2 different questions. I do feel like this is it. This is all we're going to have. I don't feel like Austin met its biggest need. Hopefully still continue to trust in Roto that the right deal wasn't out there and things will happen during the offseason. And then I'm almost forgotten that Austin did add 2 players during this window. We just haven't seen them.
Yeah. Djordjevic, still no news, probably doesn't have a visa, can't get into the country yet. And Boloko, still not making match day 20s. I'm guessing just not acclimated, not fully fit yet. So as far as other incoming ones, you mentioned Roto being patient, waiting for the right move. Totally get that. For the most part, on board with that. The sticking point that I keep coming back to is that Julio Cascante is our only TAM player. And you could say okay, well, we don't have any roster spots open right now, so it's hard to do that. We could use one because Vasquez is on the season-ending injury, but maybe that's a little sticky for one reason or another, having the temporary spot there. But we've signed several players that are not TAM players when we could have. Because Julio, even if we're paying for almost all of Julio's salary with TAM, there's still a lot left over that we are not using. And you can't use that for anything else. So it's not to my knowledge, there's not some secret way you can use TAM that we're using on that instead. You can use it for one thing and the records are open now. We are using it on one player and it's Julio. So there's a bunch of that money not being used. And we don't have the roster spots now, but we did before we signed 2 or 3 guys recently, right? So that's still a little bit annoying to me that okay, maybe you didn't get the exact right guy you're looking for, but there's a lot of soccer players.
There's a lot of players in the world, yeah. And the Julio thing is that right? Austin's the only team with only 1 TAM player too. So it's a very different roster construction from every other team in the league if you look at it that way.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but I'm guessing most of them will have several. Some of them have more than 5, 6, 7, 8 on some teams, I think. So it is possible to do that. And I understand Austin's hands were tied in some ways, but not so much that we couldn't sign one if we really, really wanted to.
Yeah, one has to hope that whatever bad money Austin has on their roster, which doesn't seem huge right now under previous regimes, will finally be free from at the end of this year. But it's Julio basically, right? At this point.
Yeah. So I mean, there could still be some moves. I think the most likely thing at this point would be something within MLS. those tend to be the ones that fly the most under the radar and kind of come from nowhere. But still, there's got to be someone outgoing more than likely for something incoming to make sense. So yeah, we'll see. But we have until Thursday. I'm guessing it's midnight Eastern time on Thursday, so it'd be 11 p.m. Thursday here for either green smoke or an outgoing report to come through. Let's get into this prompt from our buddy Derek Ensign. I think he posted this in Los Verdes Slack, and then I discussed it with him a little bit in another group chat that we're both in. But he said he went about trying to make his all-time Austin FC best 11, and then was asking for, I guess, other people's thoughts. Like, would you change any of this? So he has Brad Stuver in goal, Biru left back, Heinzeich and Gabrielson as our center backs, Dessler as our right back, Alex Ring, Owen Wolff, Sebastian Driussi in the midfield, and then up top, Fagundes, Vasquez, Bukhari. Some of these are very clear and easy, including guys who are new, like Dessler. Like, Galler had a really good couple of years playing that position. But as far as just like overall quality in the field, like Dessler's pedigree is just a different thing. He's another level up, so I'm fine with putting him there, even though he hasn't been here very long. What would you change? Like, what are your complaints with this, if you have any?
Well, I've asked clarifying questions, obviously, first. So is this like, is it attributed to a single season, or is this just like the entire player's entire career?
That's a good question, because you almost have to put like a vintage label on these.
Yeah.
Like the 2021 Alex Ring was a great year.
Very French. I ask about that specifically, thinking about like Diego Fagundes versus Ethan Finley. Like, Diego Fagundes had one really, really good year. I feel like
Ethan
Finley was a better
Finley
overall
kind
contributor.
of had one good year too, though. Like, he wasn't great the other years.
You think so? I think he was more productive. I feel like Diego Fagundes was like negative productive in 2023.
Yeah. I think he was so good in 22 that he almost still makes the cut for me.
Okay.
I have two that I could argue against. I don't have many strong complaints with this, but two that I could argue against are at center back. You could maybe argue putting Matt Beasler in over Heinzeich. He was quite good in the half a season or whatever that he played, and then got that concussion and retired. It's also very long ago. I don't remember much now about that season, so I'd have to go back and watch some more of that, which I'm not going to do. I'm not watching that season again.
Well, I'll tell you the one thing I do remember about that season is if you look at like the goals allowed when Beasler was playing, and then from the second he went out to like them getting, they weren't very good before or after, but they were like bad in low scoring games, and then they went to getting blown out. Like, I do remember seeing it was a remarkable difference once they lost him on what happened to goal differential.
Yeah, and then moving into the midfield, it feels pretty cruel to not have Danny Pereira in the all-time best 11, given how long he's been here, and he's been really good for most of that time. So when you're talking about single year versus like their career as a whole, maybe you do swap out Owen for Danny there. I know like the recency bias here is like Owen is our best player. You have to put him in there, but for the first 4 years, Danny was one of our best players, especially the last 2 or 3 years. Like, he's been really good. How do you fit Danny Pereira into this team, though?
Well, I make Owen a winger. That's how I fit Danny Pereira into this team. If this is mild. If I was just taking these
that's what
guys,
the real coaches have done too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they do to get both of them on the field, right?
Yeah. I could also say if we're saying like the full body of work, like 2021 Alex Ring, he's absolutely in there. But like 2020, he played in 24, right? Yeah. 2024 Alex Ring, I'm like, yeah, I think I might pick Danny Pereira over that one for sure.
Man, the wildest one on this one is like, how do you argue against Vasquez? I mean, other than like Giassi being your striker, maybe, although cost a bunch of money. And I mean, he was just bad. At least you can blame Brandon Vasquez's lack of production for the rest of this year on the injury.
Yeah, it's pretty damning for a guy who's only played 19 games for the team and to say like, no, he's absolutely the best striker we've ever had. I don't know what to think about this, but the fact that there's so many players from this season who have only played this season or mostly played this season in this already, it's like damning of the quality of the teams before. It kind of highlights how that 2022 season was such an anomaly with guys who before that and after that were not amazing players, and somehow they still pulled off what they did. And then also like with so many of the guys being from this year, the fact that we're still not really all that good.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, Maxi Laruti, to speaking of another striker from 2022, had like one magical 20 game stretch or something.
Yeah, even then he didn't have a ton of goals. Did he have like 7 or something?
Yeah, but I think he did. But I think they all came in the first half of the year. So I think it was a really good, really strong stretch. Yeah, I originally was gonna try to start this whole show out of frustration, being like, let's take this all from a strengths perspective and being positive, and I didn't start there. But now I feel like this kind of, for what it's worth, this team this year is the deepest and best team Austin has probably ever had, other than Austin catching lightning in a bottle. And I don't know what that means going forward, but if you're looking for a ray of light for 2025, like, it's a better soccer team than we've had in the past.
Yeah. Let's call it progress and move on.
There you go.
All right, let's do our Montreal preview. Kick it off, Jeremiah.
Yeah, Montreal's really bad. I mean, that's the highlight of it. So Montreal's currently 13th in the East. Only has one more goal than Austin this season. So I think they're bottom 3 in terms of goals. Negative 23 goal differential. So they make up for not scoring many by giving up a ton. I didn't even remember them playing before, but they've played twice. I do remember them playing away in Montreal once now. Played twice. Austin wins both matches. Austin has won both matches. Who do we look out for in terms of players for Montreal?
Prince Owusu is their clear-cut best player. I think he has 11 goals. I think he played for Toronto last year and had a pretty good season, 9 goals I think he had, and then was moved to Montreal, and it's been good for them again this year, like really good on a bad team. Caden Clark is their leading assister. He has 6 on the season, but someone in Montreal and then confirmed by Tom Bogert that it looks like he's moving to DC, so he will probably not play against us, leaving their next highest assist getter to be Prince Owusu with 4, and then the next one behind that with 2 players with 3. So their offensive output has not been great. Their defensive output has been terrible. They still have, did you say what their record was? I think they still only have 4 wins on the season.
No, just where they were in the table. So 13th in the East. Yeah. 4 wins. It's not great.
Yeah. So they have gotten some better results lately and gotten a lot of draws lately, which is, I mean, not great for Austin if we get another draw here, but it's another opportunity for Austin to get points off of a bad team. Hopefully they can do what they did against DC and do it in their house, but they really need to because of the fact that they haven't been taking care of business at home.
Yeah, you have to pick one of these up. I noticed you didn't mention Brandon Craig among the players that we should worry about in Montreal.
My apologies to Brandon Craig. I think he has 9 starts for them this year.
Yeah, well, so for Austin, do we think we see any changes to the lineup? I mean, it feels like
we're
that
going to
11
have to
is the best
with Danny,
11.
right?
Yeah, except for that, right? Let's talk about how Danny being out on yellow card accumulation affects the way Austin plays. Lines up, at least.
If this would have happened a few weeks ago, I would have said, let's move Owen into the midfield and let's start Robert Taylor. It doesn't, the fact that he didn't even touch the field last game makes me think that's not going to happen. And I don't really want any of the other wingers to start a game, period. And so I think maybe what we see is you swap in Sabovic for Danny and just kind of have him play the same role. Because in this Dallas game, I'm not sure what they'll do against Montreal. In the Dallas game, it was not the 4-2-3-1 look. It was more of like the 4-1-2, like the 1-2 look in the midfield with Ilya as the lone 6, and then Danny playing as that dual 8. And so I think Sabovic looks better offensively in that role. So maybe you could play him there and not have too much of a drop off from Denny.
And we haven't talked a lot about Sabovic lately, and part of it's been minutes. But do you think he's like having adjustment issues right now, or is it the heat? Is it that he just hasn't been the same player that he looked at early in the year? And I don't think that he looks like what we thought we saw from him on film.
I don't know what the deal is with him. I mean, he does stuff, like you see him do stuff, and you're like, okay, this guy knows how to play soccer. But then he'll do kind of dumb things on the ball. Anytime he sees the back of a leg, he just has to kick it.
You're right.
And it's just a fouling machine. He just thinks, like, for whatever reason, that that's allowed and that he shouldn't get called for a foul when he just smashes someone in the back of the leg. And that's really frustrating to me too, because sometimes there's like times to do that where it's a good idea, but it's not in our attacking third when we're trying to win the ball off of someone. And he just kills momentum so often by needlessly chopping people down. So it's frustrating because of like just that he hasn't been very good, but it's more so that the fact that like I do still think he is good and think he can do better than this, and he's just not.
Oh gosh, man, it's like when I made bad grades, and my mom would be like, "I'm not mad,
just disappointed."
Just disappointed, which is the most cutting thing that she could ever say.
So Los Verdes took a little bit of a break from watch parties, but they are back this week, Jeremiah. Tell the listeners about that.
Yeah, if you want to hang out with Los Verdes, it's going to be Saturday night at the Brewtorium Brewery and Kitchen, which is Central Austin, close to ACC Highland campus. Pretty good location. Events start 5:30, kickoff at 6:30. All ages, large indoor screen, free parking, giant pretzel, which I do remember about going there. And who doesn't love a giant pretzel?
Yeah, there's some nice German food. And then also, one of my favorite beer styles when done right is a Vienna lager. And they have a really good one. I believe it's called Electric Lederhosen, but they have a really nice Vienna lager. So get that one if you go.
Yeah, check that out. So, Landon, since we mentioned booze, do you want to talk about what you're drinking tonight?
Oh, I am drinking a Japanese spirit called Awamori, which is one of the more pretentious things I've ever said. But we booked flights to Japan maybe last week, and I've kind of always been this way, but especially the last 5 years or so, when we're gonna go on a trip, I just go on the deepest rabbit hole you can ever go, trying to learn everything I can about that country. And so I've actually started studying Japanese on Duolingo. I'm absolutely not going to catch your record, Jeremiah, because probably as soon as I come back from Japan, I'm going to stop and never study again. But trying to learn at least some of the characters so I can maybe read a sign while I'm there. And then also like doing history podcasts and stuff. And then also found a Japanese booze podcast essentially. And they were talking about shochu, but like they've continuously kept making it, and then like these wild traditions and crazy distilling methods and fermentation methods. And so I was like, oh, I got to try this. And so I went to Specs today, and they actually had some bottles of it. It was in the wrong place. It was in the wine section with all of the sake, which it's like 40% alcohol. And then another bottle was in the Japanese whiskey section. And so they didn't know what it was either and didn't know where to put it. But I found some, and it's quite tasty.
Awesome.
All right. Anything else, Jeremiah?
No, that feels like a good spot to end it.
I guess so. We'll say it is. We'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Come find us on the internet, wherever you are on the internet. Join the Patreon. And then, forgot to mention this. We're getting closer to the Progress Texas event with Brad Stuver, which is called All-Star Activism. We'll have that link in the show notes again. But tickets are still on sale. The individual tickets are still on sale, but it will fill up. So if you're interested in going, check it out, buy a ticket now. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week to review the CF Montreal match and then preview the home match against the San Jose Earthquakes and then cover any other Austin FC news. Until then, I'm Lenny Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Thank for nothings. You never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Because they love cheap boom boom sauce.
Yeah.